maybe a slightly more safer or kind of, you know, guaranteed lock-in kind of pick. But no, not to be. You don't have to put yourself in harm's way as such for the Leona, but they decide they want to go for the Rel instead. And ooh, the Shyvana coming out here for the Antonio.
Okay.
And bit of a specialty over in the LPL there for the likes of Shanji, but still does exceptionally well as a tank engage.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of it around the ERLs as well. And the great thing about the ERLs is you can just find one of our ERLs and there'll be a team that plays pretty much everything in existence. And the Antonio hasn't actually been one of those big Shyvana players. I actually think of JDXL actually played a lot of Shyvana and they flexed that around too. That was very fun to watch. But in this game, we're going to see Sevex go back to one of his most played. The Corki is his most played of this split. Going to be put in towards that mid lane. So that is another scaling damage option. And oh baby, we mentioned that World Stage 2018. It's 4 years ago. No, it's still Corki Azir, Rasheen. Wake up.
I know, Corki Azir. I won't lie, I'm not ecstatic to see that particular pick being brought onto the stage, but it is a very safe kind of scaling pick. I will say it, very different style to what we used to see with the Corki. You get very heavily punished if you get a mistiming on your rockets from the base. So you need to be very, very clear with your team and saying, look, we picked up the package. We need to make a play off of this. And if you don't, you're just going to be on a bit of a mismatch of power.
Now, if Giants are going to play around those objectives, though, then yes, that special delivery, the package can be very, very important for that Corki. And Sevex is a player which, I don't know, I just trust Sevex to play stuff which is just on the fringe of meta, and Corki has become that now. It's how a lot of players have had a lot of comfort with that champion over a little while, but I'm really interested in seeing how this butting of heads goes, because Zero Tenacity in a lot of ways have chosen to play into what Giants want to do and said, you're going to play 5v5? Well, we can do that too. Normally they've ended up, unless they have that early game of that Draven playing through bot side and getting ahead early, they tend to play a little bit more slow and hoping that their bot lane comes online early. But if both teams do that, I think Giants are just so practiced that style. I'm worried for Zero Tenacity.
I mean, yeah, you got to feel like with an Azir, a Zeri, such a powerful late game combination, and you find some people getting caught out here. The Shyvana exceptional at chasing them down, but we're going to jump onto the Rift. Game number 3 of the day. Game number 1 for both of these teams. Giants, the number 2 seed from the Superliga, against the Ultra Liga champions in Zero Tenacity. May have been unconventional about how they got here, but they are here nonetheless. And now both these teams either show up or step out.
So, no crazy level ones just now. And of course, we did say that Giants do put a lot of prep into that. We've known them to do that historically. And I've chatted to their coaching staff a little bit about that because I was very interested in that. I'm wondering what they've managed to glean out of Zero Tenacity, because they've not managed to find much at this time. Of course, when you're against a Rel, you can do some weird jump over wall stuff with your W. So maybe they're just trying to play blocker on that one and secure their lanes, because of course they have so many ways to scale up into the late game. Why risk things on a flip early?
Minions have spawned.
No need to go for a burger this early in the day. Wait till lunchtime. And that's when you, or even
Hang on
dinner.
a second. What would you mean this early in the day? It's like 7 p.m. here.
No. Early in the day, as in early in the game. The day being the game.
Right.
Like you don't want, like, if we're taking it, the time of the day is the morning for the first few minutes.
Like,
that's the early game.
Are we going? I didn't know we had a day and night cycle in the Liga. Which game are we stolen that one from?
But if I said it's late in the game or it's late in the day, you know, same thing. You know it's late. You know it's early. It's early.
Well, bright and early are Zero Tenacity towards a late invade. You can see actually Advian put a little lance over the wall. Don't actually know what's happening here, though.
Advian, he's going to get himself knocked back a little bit. They're going to have to use the heal so early. And that's going to be VZZ just putting down a little bit of pressure. I will say, though, you are dismounted as the well. Double range. And oh, Lord, Zero Tenacity thought they caught them with their pants down. But actually, it was them getting punked.
Oh, Advian just walks over the crash down. Of course, Rel's hitbox it's deceptively small sometimes. He misses out on the Lulu. Turn around, they don't even need an ignite. And the Savior Rel early on getting punished. Now, Tsuzuke gonna get aggressed on by Poppy, who's just, all they're gonna do is force them out of lane very briefly and deny them a little bit of CS, but it's not nearly equal to what happened in the bot lane 2v2.
And this is not the start you wanted here for the Ultra Liga. Zero Tenacity really didn't need that kill going over to the Lulu. I will say, of course, it is just the Lulu, but extra little bit of gold on that. Definitely not ideal. So we'll see what they're able to kind of do to bring this back. And this is kind of what I was talking about, is that yes, the Rel has her points, but I feel like in every shape and form, Leona does everything that Rel does, but just slightly safer.
Yeah. Well, it is a comfort pick for Watch This as well. Going back to a conversation I had with Solarian prepping for this team. When they don't have that Nautilus, sometimes they can just go on towards the Rel, and they've showed up some very well on the domestic stage with that one. And sadly, though, with that 2v2, sets you behind a little bit. Rel is not really great at playing from behind because Rel isn't actually a tanky champion. Someone made a really funny post in saying that Ornn was the last tank champion released like 4 or 5 years ago at this point. It's like, yeah, because Rel doesn't actually count as a tank because she dies too quickly. People don't even like think of her as a tank anymore, and you can see exactly why when you do get dredged down to those longer trails.
Well, we'll see if they're able to kind of crawl that back on the bot side. Again, not exactly an ideal situation, but not the worst thing in the world. You've still got plenty of opportunities to bring this one back. As you can see now, the Shyvana into the Sejuani matchup. I will say this is just part and parcel for it. I'm very curious to see now how the Antonio works this one out and kind of uses his advantage, because you're just going to have perma push even at level 6. Honestly, even at level 6, you're going to have kill pressure now onto Momus 100. So the Antonio is going to have to try and either get a solo kill or try and transfer that pressure somewhere else to gain the benefit.
Yeah, well, speaking of transferring pressure, sometimes you just not do that as well and just play safe, play towards this very stable game. And I'm looking now at what's happening with Giants, and they're doing exactly just that, right? And well, speaking of that, Sebex managed to stop Jizuke getting off a recall on the wave that he really wanted to. Keeps him in lane a little bit longer, but he's hovering on the right side of things, and Yuzaki not able to shut him down. There was a moment there, though. Sebex, this is one of the things I love about League of Legends, when you can see that a small thing evolves into quite a significant play. Sebex was trying to stop that recall, realizes actually if Jizuke doesn't go back, if he doesn't go back at that point and I cancel him, he has to stay around for a better wave to get to that point. And Zero Tenacity have a window of time to make a play. It doesn't work out to anything, but just good to see the mindset and the higher level understanding of what happens in these lanes and how you can make plays around them.
Just go the long way, man. Don't bother. It's a Lulu. You're gonna get wrecked. Just don't even entertain the idea. Just go the long way. But yeah, I think that the term you're looking at is opportunity cost as such.
Yeah.
For you take an opportunity. What does it cost you? What does it gain you? And that's where we get the kind of risk and reward as such, and the toing and the froing between different lanes, different wave states, and of course that roam and top side or from the Rel into that mid lane does mean that VZZ just kind of has to wait for this lane to kind of come back when his support joins him. And again, this is still a level 2 Rel. This is not exactly ideal. Finally level 3, but yeah, not an ideal situation there. You really do need most, if not all, of your kit on Rel at all times.
And actually, we've seen a fair bit of Rel in the NLC as well. Not in this game, but it's where I've seen most of it recently. And even then, it was just like, this champion just wants to roam and get things done early, because your crash down as a W ability so early on, it's just really impactful. And you only need one level to have that unlocked, right? So up until you're level 6, you can still have a lot of impact getting yourself across the map. And Watch This agrees with that one to the extent, but hasn't really managed to find anything for his team. You can see slowly but surely slight advantages being built up across the board, and that first blood carrying over Giants to a healthy advantage. But here we go.
I love this all in. You've got so much CC, but again, it's a Lulu. You're not really going to be able to lock her down or at least burst her out this early on in the game. So yes, I like the move coming out here from Zero Tenacity, but it doesn't bear any fruit.
Oh, Ryuzaki actually sticking around for a little longer. Kedui.
Oh, it doesn't get the stun though, and we're going to see now Ryuzaki trying to look for something on the backside of this one here, but here comes Max Lore again. Steadfast presence used to dissuade anyone from jumping back in on top of this, and it's a bit of a 3v3 on the bot side.
It is lower health bars for Kedui and Advian. No flash available from the Rel, but it is from the Poppy. Stand close to those walls at your own peril, but even with that, Kedui able to at least clean up those minions and not be denied anything, and not be left with a poor wave state after that point.
Now calm down, bring ourselves back in, about 1,000 gold, and just that one kill in favor of Giants as they start to just stack themselves up. And when we're real with you observers, I don't think anything's going to be happening in this mid lane for a long time.
But you don't enjoy this matchup. I enjoy seeing these players. I enjoy seeing these historical players on my screen. Wow, Sevek's been so good at the hero scene. Jizuke, ooh, this guy's been around for years. It's like, no, bot lane, let's go.
Yeah, I would rather watch paint dry sometimes between an Azir Corki matchup. I'm gonna call him like I sees him, but look, it's a very safe pick and has a lot of merits, obviously.
Remind me, what lane do you play when you play in League? Do you have a particular penchant for it? Oh, well, whatever. You play top lane games. This is just be a bit of a rundown. Not going to lead to much. Just do you have a lane that you particularly air towards?
No, I actually play Phil funny enough. I play Phil, so whatever lane people don't want to play. So I got about like 2 or 3 mains in every single role. And I just play them to like, you know, to make sure that no one, because then it's always really funny because even though like you've obviously taken the Phil and you play it, people always get really mad at you still, and it's just like, all right. I took this crap role that you didn't want,
and even then, you're sat there like, oh man, this one lane, I have nothing to say about it. See, for me, I love seeing my assassins being played, high mobility picks, but as a mid laner, I can appreciate some of the higher level thought process about lane management between control mages. Problem with Zero Cork is that they end up just clearing waves at a point. It's like, well, I can't really do anything with that. What it does mean, though, is that you have a very stable platform to make plays around neutral objectives, and it means that both of these teams have some say about what's happening about this Herald and this Dragon. Often we do see a bit of a trade of these or plates going down when the Herald is being taken, but with these Zeds staying around in this bot side, Zero Tenacity taking the chance to start up towards this Herald. We're not going to see a split map in terms of the plates being traded for this, whichever way it goes.
Looks like it is just going to be the AD carry staying in the spot side, so a 4v4 for the moment. Still waiting on that package to be used, or honestly even picked up. 10 minutes is when it spawns now, so not going to have that one for the moment. But there's the Glacial Prison coming out. They're going to try and maybe get the Antonio, who doesn't have his ultimate, and that means his Rage Bar, but he couldn't jump away. That's got to be a kill over to Zero Tenacity. Really nicely done around the timings.
Yeah, Antonio was trying to auto-attack to get his Rage Bar filled up so he can cast his ultimate again. But this is a Ghost Shyvana. You do that to run down your lane opponent, which means that you don't have much way out of these plays once the enemy gets on top of you. He doesn't have the ult, doesn't have a flash, goes down without much being said about it. And so Tenacity, ever the opportunists, end up picking up themselves a kill on that top side, which might just unlock themselves that Herald.
Oh, here we go. We're going to go for a full engage. You can see the Rel trying to jump in onto Maxlor, but he does get the Cyclone off them. Momus is here. The Rift Herald, I should say, has been secured. Emperor's Divide to stop the Sejuani from jumping onto Jizuke. And everyone just kind of backs away. So overall ends up being a 1-for-1, but Rift Herald over to the Ultra League of Champions.
Yeah, neither of the teams really had like a fantastic way into that fight. You can see that they were playing around ranges, trying to just find any opportunity they could go for, but Giants kind of sat there without too many options. And we're gonna go back towards the start of this, and again you can just see that Antonio, he's actually pretty close to getting his Rage Bar stacked up. Every auto attack you have gives you a certain amount of it, but isn't able to get towards that 100 margin. Gets shut down by a well-placed and well-timed Sejuani ultimate. Zero Tenacity find themselves the kill, which opens up the rest of this Hell confrontation to be at numbers advantage.
Again, just kind of a good movement here from the side of Giants, recognizing, look, we got level 6s, we know we can maybe contest, but I will say there that Rel does a fairly decent job of just stopping Maxlor from having any kind of impact outside of the 1v1.
Well, let's be honest, it's better to have that onto the Rel than it is onto your Corki than whoever else, right? Because as soon as Wukong gets into your backline, things get a bit awkward. You open up space for that Azir, so I think Watchers gives their life for the greater cause in this one situation. And, now sat here with Flash. Doesn't have the ultimate yet, but when he's around Ryuzaki, also ability to jump onto one target and deal them a fair amount of damage. We're back towards one of the other neutral objectives. It wasn't a trade between Herald and Dragon. And now we have ourselves the package picked up by Sebex, who's got himself towards that Manamune stacking up. Tenacity have themselves some option to play around this Dragon if they want.
I mean, you can see Sebex kind of just using the power with it, posturing with it, saying, look, you got to try and walk through this effectively on Rumble Equalizer if you want to try and contest this. That's going to be 2 neutrals now going over to Zero Tenacity, and despite the gold being in favor of Giants for the moment, it will still lead to pretty good pressure for them on the bot side. I will say, though, Giants haven't fully disengaged from this one just yet. Here we go, Magnet Storm in with the flash. They're going to get the Rel in, and Advian is dead. Maxor trying to run away. No Cyclone means no way he can escape, and that's going to be Dragon secured here for the side of Zero Tenacity alongside 2 kills.
Oh, why don't you just play Leona? Because this guy is so comfortable on this pick. Finds the angle, gets onto the target, gets another neutral objective fight in his team's favor. Zero Tenacity lose out on that early first blood. We're a little bit worried about that early game, but now we found ourselves into a point where Zero Tenacity have themselves a bit of an angle. This is just sits in the right place. Giants, a bit disrespectful, honestly. They know there are multiple ways into this fight. Maybe they're emboldened by the fact that the package timing had gone, but it's not like you have a Zeri at a point of power either at this point, and Zero Tenacity get away with another neutral objective fight in their favor.
I mean, it's just kind of sloppy from the side of Giants because you didn't have the Wild Growth from Advian. You didn't have the Cyclone back off cooldown. Now Jizuke, he's going to try and look for a play. He does get the flash in to try and stop it, but he's going to be traded back. So 1-for-1 solo kills between the Corki and the Azir, and ends up being just an even trade.
You even trade well enough, and that's actually going to fuel the Azir through to their Luden's completion, but you're out of lane and you're giving gold over. Either way, as much as Giants do have a well-scaling comp, at this point, you're giving over a lot of gold when it felt like you didn't have to fight, and it's gonna... No, we, coming out of that draft, was saying, hey, Zero Tenacity, they chose to play against the strengths of Giants, playing towards these bigger 5v5s, tanky front line, lots of initiation. But they're giving as good as they get for now. See if they can keep it up through the rest of the game.
Oh, see them now kind of move on to this bot side. There's going to be a flash burnt there by Kadaya. Okay, keeps moving himself back. Again, the junglers are here. Rift Herald gets dropped here. Not quite sure if they wanted to try and drop the Rift Herald or maybe use the Scryer's Bloom, but now you're fully committed to the spot side. Mid laners on the minimap starting to make their way down. Will Shelly get to do her favorite thing in the world? It looks like the answer is yes. They won't even have to use the ultimate from the Poppy, but they might try and push her with it now. Jizuke kind of isolated away from his team. This is split into two different fronts right now. You can see that the mid and jungle trying to chase down Jizuke.
No Valkyrie.
I mean, you've got no Valkyrie because Stebex was trying to catch somebody out. And while that's been happening in the picture-in-picture, you got a solo kill there from the Antonio. And Giants coming back with a storm. They're not quite done just yet either. VZZ needs to back himself away from the Zeri because she is revved up and ready to go.
It's just nasty. I think they just feel themselves a little bit too much. They're like, okay, we've got the Herald. We can punt someone away to get a guaranteed charge. That was the first part of the plan. Second part of the plan where you want to reset and get back towards your lanes was just a little bit awry. Things get split, as you were saying, and well, they're going on to the Azir, not nearly able to shut them down in time. What the heck happened to the solo kill? Because when you're in Dragon Form from Shyvana, the more you auto-attack, the more rage you end up getting. Because you've got the AoE Q, you get to stick in that Dragon Form, and that is enough time for Antonio to use a couple more empowered abilities, and Shyvana just runs out of damage, runs out of mana.
Very unfortunate there for Zero Tenacity's Momus 100. Not really gauging the damage that was available to the Shyvana right up there, as we now get to see total damage in this game. The top laners actually almost topping out the charts themselves, as we do see Azir coming into this one here. And again, Jizuke on this pick is just doing so much work for his team. It is going to come down to how he's able to kind of navigate these team fights and position himself to get the most out of those Sand Soldiers.
Yeah. Well, I think what's going to eventually come through, what I'm looking for, it's not going to happen for another like 10 minutes, maybe when you get second and a half to third item. If Azir gets one good poke combo with the first strike, a Luden's proc, and something else onto a target, then actually someone like that Rel, it's going to be half HP. Someone like that Poppy, also going to be in a bit of danger. For me, I'm looking at Zero Tenacity to be very, very decisive when these carries want to play around their poke and their range advantage. And because they are controlling the objectives right now, they are going to be in a position to do that when they can start standing in areas, control that vision and look towards that. So that's what I'm looking for. Zero Tenacity punishing and being decisive when Giants try and use their range advantage.
Well, Giants will trade off the Rift Herald for this tower. Not quite sure if the Antonio was in local gold range for that. It's a little bit unfortunate if he does miss out on it. So trying to see maybe if they were trying to go for a collapse, making sure he was not caught out by that. But again, with pressure now, knowing that everyone was up at that Rift Herald, resets coming in, you have to just kind of concede this bot lane and say, look, okay, you're going to let the Zeri get a little bit of a free farm going for themselves. And it is about 1,000 gold now between these 80 carries. So you can't really be letting this Zeri just kind of free farm for as long as she absolutely pleases. And it is going to be a bit more about kind of being proactive here for Zero Tenacity to make sure that, yes, they're getting these neutral objectives, but they're gaining something because of it.
Okay, combination of Max Law and bot lane towards this bot side, of course, Ryuzaki on that side as well. We've seen a lot of neutralizing plays in this game. It's not been particularly fast, it's not been particularly explosive, and you know that both these teams are waiting for certain item breakpoints. They know what happens when they play towards bot side. So Tenacity, of course, very known for doing that. Giants, of course, do it with their own front line as well, but they have their ways. And Zero is close enough to that wall, but not close enough to the Poppy to get punished.
Miyazaki could have popped the flash with the steadfast presence. Oh, there's the package though, and it stops everyone from backing away, but the Corki gets polymorphed, so he's not really a part of this fight. Everyone has to use either flashes or dashes to get away, but look at Kadaya, he's kind of revving up right now, and you've got yourself a little bit of a front to back. There's going to be a TP coming in as the Azir looking for the big flank. They've caught out the Zeri, but the Rel has fallen. Now they're going to jump onto Sebex as he nearly gets taken down, finally does fall. That's going to be another fantastic move here from Jizuke in the mid lane, and Giants find themselves 4 kills for 1 and the Dragon.
There we go, first 5v5 of the game in truth, and it's Giants that take it. I love the fact that Jizuke is punted out of the fight by the Poppiol, just teleports in for an unexpected flank. I love that thinking on the fly, and Zero Tenacity, they found themselves an okay package angle, but they didn't do quite enough damage on the engage. Now, you're losing your first neutral of the game, and that Hex Tech Dragon. You're losing turrets. And this balance which you had in the early game, which was fairly neutralized, starts to swing a little more in Giants' favor.
I mean, let's look at the starters, because like you said, yes, they get the package out, but there's no initial follow-up, so they don't really gain anything off it, and then Zebex is kind of left to just take a huge amount of damage.
But just look what happens. This is absolutely hilarious. Jizuke, bop. He goes, teleport. I have that summoner. So while Zero Tenacity are trying to finish the fight in this before Jizuke can rejoin, they don't have enough damage at this point. Zir comes in, cleans up, and it's only the Sejuani that gets to walk away.
Now they're looking for the Antonio right now, and they have found him, so they're going to try and just overload him. He does have his ultimate available. That's unstoppable as he does go into dragon form, so this is the power of the Shyvana. Now you can maybe chase these ones down as Maxlor is here. Cyclone is not quite available just yet, but a TP going to be used here. That's going to be Mumus getting joined in by the side of the Corki, who's off to the side. They're not quite going to commit to that one just yet. Kedui is starting to ramp up. They do get a little bit of extra damage down, and you can see Jizuke on the backside of this with the Zeri. They're just tearing them apart. Double kill coming in here for Kedui as they're just separating Zero Tenacity, and there's nowhere for them to go. The Sivir falls. It's a triple kill. It won't be a penta, but it does not matter because it's Zeri with the Quadra.
You're tearing him apart, Kedui. He runs right into them. There is no room to maneuver. Quadra kill because the Zeri just keeps ramping up. It's the second 5v5 of the game, and Giants take 2 for 2 in the big engagements.
Again, let's have a look at the start of this, because again, they're looking for the Antonio, and then Giants start to turn them back around. They still commit the TP, but it's just not enough.
It's not enough, and it feels like so much is wasted onto what is just a very annoying frontline. Maxlor, yeah, out of the fight, but still not down. And at this point, what have you got to do with the Zeri? Like, legitimately, what do you have? You've used all of your CC, and if they have enough items, you don't have enough HP to fight against that. Are we using the extreme mobility of Zeri to take matters into his own hands? He doesn't need no stun double, does them all himself.
This just completely changes the dynamic of the game. It was only about a couple of hundred gold lead. He's now catapulted itself into a 7,000 gold leader, just a little bit underneath that. You will see the Antonio stopping the Rift Herald being dropped. So again, like I said, yes, you're gaining global or neutral objectives here on the side of Zero Tenacity, but you're not gaining anything for it. That's the big thing. You got the local gold and a little bit of local experience, but you didn't gain anything else after it.
Yeah, and now you're sat with a Zeri with almost a 4,000 gold lead over their individual opponent. This is a very important game for Giants in a lot of ways, because actually one of the other things I talked with Lorx, who is, of course, with the Giants organization, was that, you know, the most important thing for us in this group stage is to not underestimate our opponents, because at the end of the day, we weren't playing better League of Legends than them in our playoffs run, even if we believe we can do better. That was effectively the words to that effect. But in this game, they've managed to sit back, rediscover their play style, and really show what they can do when they play toward these group fights, which I particularly know them for. In this game, this is a very important game for them to just solidify themselves and say, yes, we are here to play, we can compete with these teams, and we can walk away with an important win in what should be a very close group.
Again, this is a good moment here for the second seed from the Ultra Liga. This is a bit of a kind of a moment here. Again, it's been a pretty long time since we've seen a Super Liga kind of team maybe even win the EU Masters, let alone kind of get to the finals or anything like that. But, you know, I think of the last split, it was Carmine Corp LDLC. Before that, it was K Corp Fnatic Rising, K Corp BTXL, Go Rogue Gamer Legion, LDLC Kick Neosurf. You know, it was basically, I believe, 2019 summer where Big were in the finals against Giants, and of course Big still won it. So again, the Superliga were kind of touted when the EU Masters was starting to come up and become an actual tournament for people to look forward to. The Superliga was one of those big regions that everyone looked towards, and they just haven't got it.
That's a very good point, actually, because in the modern history of European Masters, let's be honest, it doesn't stretch back as far as some tournaments, but there is a lot of history there. You do look towards the LFL, but when you see teams like this from the Ultraliga, from the LVP, you can see what they want to do in these team fights.
Lord, you don't get over the wall with the Cyclones, you got to use your flash. That's the realm now, flashless, and a lot of your big engage no longer available to you. Zero Tenacity having zero excuses right now because they're just kind of getting bullied.
And this was kind of my worry, right? Because yes, they do have a very proficient bot side of the map when it comes to these team fights. You're playing into the strengths of one of our best team fighting teams within the ERLs. Giants are now walking away with a very comfortable game for them, not just in the way that they played it out, but just on the face of it, on paper. If you told me Giants were going to win a game, it would look quite similar to this. Zero Tenacity, I appreciate them being bold enough to say, we can beat you in that, but it's not worked out from the end of the day, and I wonder if they should have tried to drag Giants away from this playstyle with something that didn't just hammer at them in a 5v5.
Have you ever tried to drag a Giant? Quite big. Not easy. Not an easy thing to do.
Wow, you get disadvantage on grappling against
them. Got to keep you on your toes, Nightmare. Got to keep you on your toes. You got to make sure you're ready for it. But speaking of
all I remember is just the only thing I remember about that is just like the initial release of Skyrim, when the Giants, when they hit, you just go flying into the horizon because their strength sat so out of proportion. And sadly, that is where Zero Tenacity are. They're looking to trip them up.
Oh, not quite able to get them there. We're able to stick onto the jungler there, but no flash now for Maxor. But you've committed so many members for that brush play. That's a dead tower. So that's a tier 2 for a flash of Maxor. You take that any day of the week, and you put down the Shurima's Legacy, means that you're not really able to kind of like punish this move, but you're going to have to try.
But what do you have for it? Because you have to try and look for these overloaded plays. You have to, but right there, Maxwell gets away with just using that flash. You use an ultimate in return, so it's not really giving you a bonus in combat advantage, nor is it giving you any gold. Giants at this point, they are just waiting for Zero Tenacity to run out of options and have to be forced into poor macro decisions. They lose something on the bot side of the map. What happens if they have to commit something to the bot side the next time when actually Jizuke is around the Baron? Heck, he's picked up his third item. It's again, my favorite item in the game, that Magi Soul Stealer, and you can understand why, because there isn't a huge amount of threat onto this Azir. If he gets on towards that Baron, when he has so much damage, we know how much Azir can do towards neutral objectives. Zero Tenacity, the decisions they are going to be making are going to be different. They're not going to have easy options to go towards one side of the map, because at that point, you're going to get yourself ran through on the other.
And did you know a Magi Soul Stealer is not a book?
Okay, technically,
it's a.
What is it? Okay, I know what you're gonna say. But
It's
what
a
is
curse. It's a curse and a tool. So it's the eye. That's the Soul Stealer. And then the book itself is just a regular amplifying tome that he just like someone opened mistakenly, and that's how they're using it. He's using it as a mode of transport.
As a certified Magi salesman, I'm gonna take that as slander, and I will not have you insulting my
I'm not insulting it. I'm just saying when people say, "Oh, I'm gonna put another page in the book," I'm like, why? I'm gonna put another soul in the eye. That's what you want. You want to put another soul in the eye.
Here I am trying to be like a good, have my good marketing picture. Like, oh, it's cursed. It's an eye. Like, no. But what it is actually very good at snowballing when you're very safe in these games. When you have a Lulu and a strong front line, you can see actually Zero Tenacity in this game. They've been blowing so much stuff on the front line. It's never really gotten to be about killing the Azir, killing the Zeri. Because by the time the fight is just past its first ultimates being cast, most of the time it's the carries which are the ones which are full HP, because it's the front lines which are absorbing this. When you have that Magi, you're not likely to die, not likely to lose those stacks, and you're very likely, because you're so long range, to get that kill participation, which makes it easy to stack it up.
This is exactly it. Again, you've got the safety of these ear soldiers. You've got so much mobility. It's just why we see this pick just never, ever leave the meta. Never, ever move away from being such a...
so much too. Yeah. Honestly, at this point, I feel like I see it banned more than picked. And I get that you have answers which can outrange, and we have typically seen a lot of poke champions. I mean, way back in the day, it was poke Varus in mid lane. That was the answer into his ear. Corki with those long-range rockets has become more of an answer, but after those nerfs, it's a little harder to make that pick work as a true counter. But you can understand why you see these picks against it, but when the game ends up like this, you just go, damn, maybe we don't try and counter it, maybe we just remove it next time.
I mean, this is the thing as well. It's also one of the big reasons why we saw the removal almost of, stop myself. I start thinking about it. We're going to have Kadaya getting kind of jumped on all solo by himself, but he flashes away and gets the wild growth, uses the cleanse as well. And they're just getting rid of all of this CC, all of this jump, not really able to stick here in the Kadaya. They try and jump on him one more time, then everything is dead, and now you've got Nazeri, but you've forgotten about the Azir, the Shyvana, the Wukong. It is a bit of a trade, because look at BZZ. He's trying to put some damage down, but he has to flash away because the Shyvana is chasing him down. It ends up being a 2 for 2 right now, as Momus is just trying to run for his life. He should be able to get himself away, but it's going to be tough.
It actually ends up being a fairly even fight. I feel like Jizuke actually waited too long to go into it. So Zero Tenacity, they find their way onto the Zeri, and they shut down Kettlery for the first time in this game. So a lot of gold going over to the side of Zero Tenacity in one of these late game team fights, which I kind of written off for them. You can kind of understand why, right? Especially with how Giants had been playing, but credit to Watch this again, finding his way into the backline on the Rel. It's been a difficult game, especially ever since that level 1, but you can see just the signs of life if both of the carries aren't in position from Giants at the start of the fight.
And again, look, they throw everything at Kettlery, but that means that he has to use everything to get away. Yes. So when he goes back in onto this fight, when they can see now they can go back in with the Rel, he's got nothing left.
And Jizuke's just too far at this point, just too far. He was hoping that the fight would go a little bit towards the north, towards that rapid pit, and can get a huge shuffle combo. I understand looking for the high roll on that plate, but if he was in there a little earlier, I can't help but wonder whether they would have been able to save this Zerian. Going towards something a bit more than that. But what were we talking about earlier? It's really good at killing neutrals. They get one moment away from it. We saw this with the Shaco and the Heimerdinger earlier. This time it's a bit more conventional. In the Azir, Baron just disappears.
Yeah, I mean, Zero Tenacity, they went for the Dragon. They're saying, look, we can take this. We've got ourselves a package, and we can defend that, but not at the expense of the Baron. And now Jizuke, he fancies himself into the tower. He's going to put it between a rock and a Sand Soldier Legion. Not really a lot of places this Sejuani to go for right now. And now you're going to see that the Rel, no flash, no real way to escape. And this is just kind of those little small mistakes. Zero Tenacity thought they have gotten an even trade, but Giants put their foot right back down on the gas.
I love this. This is just vintage Jizuke doing something weird in the side lane. Teleports to his own turret and looks for an individual play. And he's done this for so long in history. Jizuke was always the guy making the crazy plays on side lane and forcing teams to react. And now he's managed to break open the base, making use of Giants Baron. They chose to go to the Baron saying, look, we don't need Soul Point. Let's end this game on this push.
I mean, they're going to be able to get so much off of this right now. They got an inhibitor in mid, they got an inhibitor in top. Look at bot lane, it's basically already prepped, and you still have Baron for another 2 minutes. You got Shyvana running in, just kind of saying, look, you got to be very aware of when you're going for these fights, because you cannot just walk straight into me. And again, look at the wave states, look at the vision they have. It's just pure. Just everything is going in Giants' favor because there's nowhere for Zero Tenacity to go.
There isn't, and I really like how lethal-minded Giants were in that, right? Because when you give up a dragon, especially when you could have got to Soul Point, you're sat there thinking, we've given up a fairly strong win condition later into the game. They say, I would rather have the immediate advantage, but you need to get a certain amount out of it. For Jizuke to just press the go button and say, this is how we're doing it, this is how we're going to push the advantage of the game. I appreciate the boldness from Giants and using the power that they have on the board.
And the base is cracked, still 10,000 gold in favor of Giants, and they got themselves a 3,300 Baron power play. It is a, still got it for a minute as well, so they might just try and maybe push down this bot side, sync it up with the top lane. I think the top lane actually has 2 super minions in it, so they're going to really have to try and deal with that in a minute. Yeah. So this is not looking good for the Ultra League at #1 seed. They are very much backs against the ropes.
Then you look at the LVP second seed and reminder that they did actually go pretty close in the finals against Heretics, who were touted as such a very strong team. By logic, means the Giants are pretty damn good by themselves. And while they maybe didn't have the best playoffs run for themselves, including that finals, they are a team to be beaten. Looking at this game, they really are coming in fairly hot, and looking at the playmaking they bring it to bear. Let's see how they can close this one out. Zero Tenacity backs against the wall. One last team fight in them. You got to feel like, what can they do?
Yeah, I mean, look at the top lane. You got super minions already onto your Nexus. You got to try and defend them right now. Baron's still up for another 10 seconds, so they won't have it for another wave after this one. Now it gets deleted in the bot side. You still have a Sivir and a Corki, so you're doing significant damage to these waves as they try and stream in.
Maxlor is just buffing up the top minions. He's got the Baron buff on them, but with that, maybe Zero Tenacity are emboldened to go towards the bot side play, but Maxwell was just hanging around with the last of that Baron is saying, let's go towards that threat in the towers. This is a death by 1,000 minion cuts.
They are very, very annoying. They get in all at your ankles, and it's just not a fun time. So Zero Tenacity, you got to make a decision. They've made one right there. There's a good stead-up presence to try and stop Kadaya from moving away. But remember, they got to take him out as quick as they possibly can. There's going to be the stopwatch to keep him alive. But can they get the fight afterwards? This Sivir is still doing damage, and it's a double kill going over to the side of BZZ. He's going to get himself a triple kill, and they've been able to survive. It was everything they needed, and they still came out on top. Maxlor gets himself out, but only to die at the hands of the rest of Zero Tenacity, and the game goes on.
And once again, Giants kind of pull that team composition apart in a way that it's not supposed to. The carries aren't stood behind their front line. They get a little too tricksy with how they're playing around the minion waves. Zero Tenacity, in what should have been their last gasp, find themselves another breath to work out with. And this is really important because you see not only just the wall stun, but the cleanse into the immediate ground onto that steadfast presence. Genry basically doesn't get to output damage in this fight. You've already forced away what's happening with the front line too. Dazuke goes in for a dive, but it's not like you have the damage to one-shot a Sejuani, nor do you get on top of the Sivir. So Dazuke loses a lot of Magi stacks, doesn't get the damage done, and neither of these carries has an optimal fight.
I did wonder how Sebex died on the backside of that. He did actually chase the Antonio all the way away, so ended up in a 1v1 against the Shyvana, which I'm going to say, even as a Corki level 16, and we get to like the super late game,
maybe if we
ideal.
get a Dragon Slayer Corki skin, maybe that would change things.
Maybe that would be the buff.
As it stands, that'll be the buff. But Giants, remember, they gave over. This would have been soul point for them if they didn't take that last Baron. They could have chosen to go towards that, but they traded it. Get themselves onto soul point now, but the game has been stalled beyond potentially what it could have been. So it's Tenacity building up more items. 4 items onto Sebex. And while Poke Corki is not as obnoxious as it once was in the past, it still does so much damage. And now you've got a Sivir who's also coming up to almost full items. Remember when we said there was almost a 3,000-4,000 gold lead for Kedri? It's actually even now. Visa Z on a point where he's almost at full build. The carries of Zero Tenacity are in a good position, even if they as a team are 8k down. That means they've got the damage to win fights.
I mean, the big thing that I gotta say about Sebex having level 16 is like, yes, like you said, not as big as it used to be. Gonna stop myself. Maxlor, he goes golden because the steadfast presence is there. Can they kill him off? No, they cannot. There's gonna be a wild growth. TPs are gonna be coming in from both sides. It's a double TP. They're not gonna land the Keeper's Verdict, but they are gonna be able to stun off Dazuke, who gets caught and killed. Now you can jump down on top of the Zeri.
The carries are gone.
What happened? Why are you in melee range? You're a Zeri. You don't need to be there.
Zero Tenacity takes 0 prisoners. Dazuke, once again, not sitting on the back line, trying to play this dive-in bursty style, and gets absolutely decapitated. Zero Tenacity find themselves a couple of fights back-to-back.
Maxlor, not quite able to get it. There's going to be the Baron secured over to the side of Zero Tenacity. Look at the base, though. The Ghost of Super Minions pushing in, but the inhibitors have respawned. You need to try and stop these backs, but because they're empowered, the Antonio is going to find it really struggling, and again, Nightmare, the game goes on.
Disaster for the LVP representatives, but the Ultra League of first seed Zero Tenacity, well, I think they got a bit more tenacity than that. They are tenacious, and while Rel does die in the pit, Zero Tenacity are very much in this game. It's no longer an 8k deficit. It's no longer carries uneven item discrepancies. Zero Tenacity are in a point where they can team fight their way to wins.
I mean, this is just a really smart pick-off. And again, look, you can see Giants, they don't really commit to helping Maxlor, but they still throw everything into delaying this fight.
Yeah, and I think that neither of the carries from Giants are doing potentially their job at this point. Yeah, you have Dazuke. Dazuke is just at an awkward point at the start of this, right? You see the teleport coming in one side is like, well, I gotta do something. Jump straight into the pocket, stun into dead. But then at the same time, Kedri is not behind the front line, which he needs to be at that point. And neither of these carries has had the performance in these last fights, which Giants need to play this kind of composition. Zero Tenacity, this was a draft which I was worried about because they're playing into what is supposed to be the strengths of Giant. But in the late game, we're seeing some signs of weakness from the Spanish team.
I mean, will have to 100% say that Momus 100 landing that Glacial Prison onto the Zeri immediately was so huge, so clutch.
Huge.
Because it meant that he couldn't go anywhere, he had nowhere else to be. And again, remember, because of that last bot lane fight, Kadaya didn't have flash. So Kadaya was still sitting on, like, you know, if he gets caught, he's dead. His mobility is going to be stopped by the Steadfast Presence. And now we come back into live. What was a 10,000 gold feed is now a 4,000 gold feed. Yes, you're on soul point here for Giants, but like you said, without getting that soul, it's not quite done yet. But Maxlor trying to find the backside, but no one's really following up onto this except for D'Antonio. Yes, he's going to be able to kind of dissuade people, but look at the damage at the late game Sivir and the late game Corki. You can't just walk up like that.
And no one was in range of Giants. Tenacity continuing to engage.
They're still going forward. They know they found an opportunity, and you can see everyone having to burn flashes, cleanses, everything they possibly can to make sure they do not get caught out, because in a minute and a half, we're going to have another dragon, and that could be Zero Tenacity delaying the game again.
Zero Tenacity are just playing the spacing so much better. The carries of Giants have not been in position to follow up. The Ultra League at first seed, they are here to play.
Do you have teleport coming up here from Momus 100 here? So he has been sent to deal with the super minions. Dragon spawning in a minute, so you still have time for a bit of a reset. And with 20 seconds left on the Baron, you get that empowered recall. You should be in a pretty good space. But again, look at this. Full items now for the Sivir. It's now an item difference for VZZ.
Yes.
He's now huge on this. I love the Mob Memorials because he recognized the only people who are going to kill him are the Shyvana and the Azir.
I completely love that, because now at this point, I didn't think we would see this in this game, but the front line for Zero Tenacity is performing so much better than Giants. Momus has been hitting the CC. The Shyvana has just been left on their own in the backline, not connected with the rest of their team. Antonio is a historically impressive tank player, but in this game, they are a tank alone amongst the enemy team, and it hasn't been working out. Giants, they have seriously punted this ball back into the opponent's half, and now Zero Tenacity have been running it right back at them.
D'Antonio has got a TP, but nowhere really to TP to, and Jizuke, he's going to try and maybe go for a little bit of a play right now, but he's kind of caught. He's done. He's dead. He's just going to have to try and delay maybe, but they need to kill him before this Dragon Soul does pop up. Jizuke not quite going down just yet, delaying for as long as he possibly can, and now he has fallen. It's going to be a 5v4, but you've used package and you've used the Glacial Prison, and so you can see Giants, they want to turn for this Dragon.
Yeah, they do, but they don't have the DPS to burst it. They're going to just have to unevenly contest this if they want to. This might just be a bit of the sightseeing trip and just seeing it go down. Maxlor is over the wall, maybe goes for a Miracle Steal, has a Blast Cone. It would only be soul point for Zero Tenacity. It would be the full soul for Giants. It means so much more to this one team than the other. He's going in.
He's going in, but he doesn't get it. There's going to be a TP coming out. That's going to be D'Antonio coming in on top of this one here, but he's punted right back out of it. So Maxlor's left all alone, going into his GA. Not going to be able to get out of it and survive, but they're going to be able to take him out. Oh, actually, as I say that, the rest of his team come in. Finally, they're able to take him out, but now again, you've lost the wild growth. That's not going to be available for Kadaya, and now you're getting jumped on. The Lulu has nowhere to go, nowhere to be except the gray screen, and these death timers are huge.
Oh my word, Giants, they have overextended, they have mispositioned, and you know what? Zero Tenacity have held themselves in it. They were dead to rights. Giants, maybe they could afford to be a bit overeager, overextend a little bit, and the Antonio is now forced to clear out minion waves because Zero Tenacity are forcing this mid-wave right down into their base, and they are in such a good position in this game.
And you've no TPs either. D'Antonio TP to that last dragon fight, and Jizuke, I'm pretty sure, TP bot lane to try and take that inhibitor before he died, so...
They're baiting him in. They see him.
They see him. Now you can see D'Antonio going in, but again, it's going to be the Sivir just kind of free-firing on top of this. You may be a tank, but this is an artillery being thrown at you. D'Antonio limps away, hoping to survive to play another day, but again, it's so difficult to do it. I think Zero Tenacity, for the first time in this game, might even take the gold lead.
Oh, it's been a bloody long time. There's still 1,000 gold behind, but who cares about that at this point? The items have been completed, and we can see what's happening within the roles within this team. Giants are going to have to do something which some of their players have done throughout history. Of course, they have a lot of history attached to them. They're going to have to get some tricks out of their sleeves, some smoke and mirrors. Wait to see what happens with the next time their teleports are up, particularly when you have high AP mages with magic penetration. They do actually end up killing turrets incredibly quickly, but I wonder if that's what they have to do at this point. The 5v5s, which we know this team for, are not working out for them. I think they do have to start finding some creative angles, because Zero Tenacity have been outperforming them in the 5v5s in late game.
Again, full items, no more for the 80 carries to build unless they sell their boots. BT being the final one here for Kedui. think I've been calling him Kadaya because of LPL, but
Yeah.
yeah, look, it happens. So many. So it's almost like there's several hundred, if not, hundreds of players to remain. But we're very similar, and languages transcending barriers and whatnot. But we are starting to hit critical mass. Jungler's 3 items, which is so rare. But now the Antonio getting jumped on a little bit here. Sebex is coming to try and maybe help him out. They're just going to maybe try and get the dragon form out of him, but it's going to have to use it fairly swiftly. He's still getting pushed back, and this is the problem now with the Shyvana. You no longer own that type of... Wait, what happened? Why are we looking at this Baron? Just got taken, and now they're jumping onto Ryuzaki. He's getting pushed back. He should be able to stay alive, though, because of that push into the wall. But
that slow's huge.
Slow is massive. They're going to jump back in, though. They got the Magnet Force. They got the stun. Sebex is trying to just defend the rest of them. The Super Tanks are being shredded by the Zeri and Giants. They got the Baron out of nothing because Zero Tenacity went for the Dragon. Literally.
Oh, and Zero Tenacity won't be forgetting the name of Kedui anytime soon. He had a stellar early game, and in this team fight, he finally gets to put the damage down again. Inhibitors falling in mid and falling in this top side, and Giants, they reclaim themselves a footing in this game. They might just be able to end off this, even through the hardship of this one.
I mean, not only a footing, but you've no engage, you've no tanks really now to try and make this one work, and Sebex gets taken so low. Kedui just end up getting cleansed off immediately because of Mikhail's blessing, so he's not going to be locked down. You got the Antonio jumping onto the Sivert, so they're not relevant. And what was such a shaky game has now turned into a win. The Antonio alongside the Giants will take down Zero Tenacity, but they were made to work.
Victory out of the jaws of defeat, out of the jaws of